What's happening, Pod Squad? Welcome into another episode of Stripe It Like It's Hot. Probably one of my favorite humans in the world is here. What a like compelling statement. Probably one of my favorite humans. He is one of my favorite humans. He's awesome. And in fact, I think it's bizarre that we took this long to record this, but that's actually my fault. So I'm not going to hold that against you. But Mr. Daniel Wright is here. Daniel,
Happening, man.
well, I'm phenomenal. How are you?
I'm doing well also. Doing well also.
Um, I suspect that most people who listen to this show, all, eight of us, they probably know who you are because you're out there. You're out there. Um, but just in
Out there is
case,
like visible or out there is in like weird.
no, not weird at all. Well, truthfully, weird is good too. You get good traction off weird, but no,
Fair
you're
enough.
visible. The good, amazing content. And like in some respects, I'll put it this way: when I first connected with you online, this is before we even met in person, I was a little intimidated because you're an intense dude. But it's not like intense, like in a negative way. It's like you're a thinker, you're a thinking man, which is why this podcast is probably going to be 17 hours long, and we're going to have to keep it to like 50 minutes tops. But um, so Daniel Wright is Proline parking lot maintenance in Charlotte, North Carolina. Tell us about yourself. What's happening?
Yeah, I mean you basically just gave it all. There's not much more to talk about. Proline
No.
parking lot maintenance is it. So no, like I said, we're in Charlotte. Gosh, I don't even know what year it was that you and I met, but it's been several years back that we I guess more or less kind of officially connected online. I'm sure we probably followed each other's stuff on Instagram and Facebook and all that before, and then we finally just got to talking. So no, I've been in the pavement industry since 2016, August of 16. Um, I mean, the super long story short is I got into it because I needed another source of revenue and income for my house because my wife was in nursing school, and the opportunity got presented to me to purchase this business existing as kind of a part-time job. And so I took it, ran with it over the next 2 years or so. Basically, like left my other full time position, sold my other landscaping and lawn care company, and started doing this full time. So in the last 20, or I'm sorry, the last 6 years, 7 years, almost yeah, just past 7 years, we've over 20x the company, and so we've taken it from about something that was doing maybe 45,000 a year to into the seven-figure mark. So it's kind of a milestone that we hit last year, and we're just going to keep on climbing. So
And how did Proline specifically get going? How was the process to start this, and why? Why did you start this? Because you already had a landscaping business.
yeah, so I actually did not start Proline. I bought this company existing from a guy that I worked with at the fire department. So I was a full time fireman. That was my career. That's what I was planning on doing long term. But it was never really what my heart was into. I enjoyed it. I liked helping people. Hell, I still miss helping people and doing things like that. But I've always loved business. So the guy who started the company, he was a fireman at the same department I was at. He got promoted to an administrative position, like a chief's position, and could no longer work like the on 24 off 48 schedule. So a lot of firemen have part-time jobs because of their schedules, because of their low incomes, things like that. And so he started this as a means to make extra money for him. But when he got promoted, that obviously came with money and Monday through Friday hours. So he asked me, he said, well, hey, you seem to like business and working a lot. You want to buy my business before I just sell the equipment or something? I'm like, and at the time I didn't even know what parking lot maintenance was. I was just like, what do you do? Like go pick up trash at a parking lot, or like what is this? And so he told me about it, and then he said, it makes pretty good money for what you do. He said it's always needed. It's kind of a niche market. Not a lot of people are competing in it compared to like a landscaping industry. Landscapers, I don't know if it's like it is where I don't know if it's like the same as in where we are versus where you're at, Cam, but like there's landscapers on every corner here. Like
Yeah.
everybody's cutting grass. So it was something that like it made money. I mean, I was doing, I don't know, 40 residential lawns per week. I had my part-time job at the fire department, my full-time job at another fire department where I met this guy. And so I bought it from him. I went to the bank, took out a personal loan or a line of credit, and bought the company from him. And The day I brought him the check for the business was the day I learned how to turn on a striping machine. Because the only thing that came with the company was just a black trailer that had no logos on it or anything like that. It was like a 16-foot enclosed trailer, one striping machine, which we still use today. It may have all new parts on it by this point, but we still use it, and a handful of stencils and the name. So that's what I bought. I bought it for $15,000 from him. And so that was the cost of investment for me to get into it. And like I said a few minutes ago, we've surpassed the ROI goal on that one quite a bit. So that's how I got into it. And then once I realized that honestly the opportunity for the business and the industry was extremely high and really unlimited, and I realized that there's also a need for a good contractor in the industry, specifically in our market. I was like, well, this might be an opportunity for me to run with it and see what we can do. So once we started growing year over year, once we started adding seal coating to the mix of things, that really jumped up our revenue opportunity. And that's when my wife graduated nursing school, she got a full time position being a nurse. And I said, well, I guess you start yours and I'll leave mine. And we went for it. So, and it's actually you're kind of the first to hear it on the public stage. But as of the Tuesday, I guess it was Tuesday, September 4th, she is officially part of our company full time. So she left her job in the nursing career to join here full time and help us take this thing to the next level. So
Man,
it's been
how
a
long
wild
was
ride.
that? Yeah, yeah. How long was that process of because that doesn't happen quickly, right? Especially for her going to school to become a nurse. That's a lot of education, a lot of time. How long was that in the works for, we'll say, for her to come full time?
I'd say, I mean, we've always kind of talked about it. I mean, truthfully, we talked about it and kind of thought, like, man, like I don't even know if we could ever work together. Sort of, because we have similar personalities in a lot of things. Like we both like to be right. We both like to, have our say and things like that. But I think at the end of the day, there's no married couple that's not like that, right? So we've kind of joked about it for a long time, but I'd say it was probably, I guess it's September now. It was probably back in about July or August um, that we really said like, hey, let's start running some numbers and see what this looks like. Because I think I was talking to her one day after work about just stuff I was trying to do and get done and what we're hoping to do in the future, so on and so forth. And she's like, "You really are getting to be in a position you could use some of my help, couldn't you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, probably. Like this would be a good idea as long as we can, as long as it makes sense. We don't want to put the company in a financial hardship to try and bring somebody else on a full-time salary if we're not ready for it, and we also don't want to put our own personal finances in jeopardy. We have responsibilities, but we said no, like the numbers make sense, let's go for it.
Man, that's wild. So something I think about a lot, and I have no way of knowing the actual answer, but like I'm in Canada, you're in the United States, so we'll just say collectively between those two countries, how many like asphalt maintenance companies are there? Like, you know what I mean? There's probably like there's got to be tens of thousands because there's so many like one man shows, one or two guys, one guy and a helper kind of thing. There's got to be thousands of these guys. It's pretty rare to see a company that goes from, like you said, 45,000 a year. Now you're into the seven figures, and you and I talk a lot, and I know you have plans to scale and go bigger. And like, how do you do that? Because you and I know there's a lot of guys that are stuck, right? Stuck at like not that revenue is the most important thing, but they're stuck at smaller revenues. They would like to grow, but the evolution in becoming not just larger in revenue, but differentiating yourself as a company, that's hard. How did you do it?
I think from my perspective, because if you ask 10 different people how they did it, you're going to have 10 different reasons, right? So
Yeah.
there's no one secret sauce. There's no one recipe to just grow your business. I will say the most simple way I've heard it put though is from our friend Brad Lee when he was speaking at a recent engagement. I think it was about a year or so ago, and I've heard him say it before. But basically, when it comes down to business and you're trying to grow it, identify what works and do more of it. So if answering the phone calls gets you more jobs, answer more phone calls. If Showing up on time gets you, gets more people happy and calling you back or giving your name out. Show up on time more. If line striping or seal coating generates a lot of like high margin revenue for you, well, do more of it, right? So like that's the most simple way to put it is find what works and do more of it. From a more tactical standpoint, like because that's more strategy, I guess. From a more tactical standpoint, I've always been big. I mean, if you're watching this on video or something, you can see behind me, we've got our logo. I've got it on my shirt. I've got it on hats. I've got it. I mean, I've got our logo everywhere. I wanted everybody to know who the heck Proline was. So, like right now, our trailers and trucks, they're all wrapped. Just similar to your company, you got the orange lightning bolt on everything. It's a very identifiable item. Yep, there you go. It's very identifiable. Ours is the big yellow stripe that goes up the side. It's a yellow stripe that goes up the diagonal side. I mean, I was just at a conference down in Southern Florida recently, and I happened to talk to somebody who's from the Charlotte area, and she's like, "Oh, what company are you with?" And I told her, she's like, "Oh yeah, I see your trucks and trailers. It's got the yellow stripe on it." I'm like, "Yeah." So like, and this woman wasn't even in our industry. Like, she wasn't even somebody who we would market to. She's just somebody who happens to live in this area. So the branding and the logo and stuff like that's super, super, super important. Not only because, just like when you see the golden arches at McDonald's, you just know it's McDonald's. Like half the time, hell, you don't even see McDonald's. You just see the golden arches and you know you're pulling into McDonald's. So I want people to know that, hey, when you see the yellow stripe, it's Proline showing up on the job or Proline's in this area. So branding is super important because it helps people remember who you are, but it also gives that point of professionalism. That was one thing I always hated about like some of my older companies that I had. But when I first got into this one, it was all unmarked stuff. Like nobody knew who we were. And that was probably one of the first big things I did was get our first trailer lettered. It wasn't with the wrap. I mean, it's evolved over the years, but we at least had it lettered with our logo, what we do, a phone number, email address, things, our website, things like that. And just making sure that you're identifiable is the easiest way for people to remember who you are and refer you to others. So that's kind of the more tactical side of what I've done there. Beyond that, like if you want to get super granular on it, it's been freaking building the processes, like the systems and processes. You and I talk a lot. That's something that I freaking love. And if I'm not mistaken, you hate it. Like you like the process, but it's not your thing, right? You like more the relational side, the sales side, things like that. I love a process. I mean, I was just having lunch with my wife today, and we were talking about like when we like dropped the ball on something, like somewhat like something slipped through the cracks. Well, if Daniel finds out something slips through the cracks, you can guarantee there will be a new process or step to the process implemented immediately. Like that's just how I do it. So it's wanting to make sure that whatever you're doing and doing well, that you can duplicate it, that another person can come and learn it and repeat it and so on and so forth. And then if something fails, if something falls through the cracks, you have to be able to plug that hole with a step or a new process. So a step in a process you have to add or a new process altogether if it's a big thing that got dropped. So those would probably be the big three things I'd say on for like a track to growth is do more of what works. So figure out that whatever your best stuff is, do more of it. The next one will be the branding and the logos and things like that to make sure you're recognizable in your space on the internet, wherever it may be. And then also just your processes and systems to make sure that everything is repeatable.
Yeah. It's one thing I appreciated in Brad's book was he said, you want to double your sales? You just do twice as much. And you read it and you get annoyed because you're like, no, there's got to be more to it. No, that's really it. Brad really simplifies things. Yeah, I appreciate that. So yeah, something I think about a lot. Like, so for you guys, the branding is massive. So if you drive down Charlotte and you see the No Name trailer on one side of the street, that's fine. They're doing their thing. They're sealing a lot. But you see the other side and you see a crew of Proline guys, and they're all in the same uniform. They have the marked trailer, the wrap truck. They're operating in the same processes that you've built. I feel like when you do that, I'm a big fan of, I like the idea of it. I sometimes struggle to implement those kinds of things, but like the systems and processes you build, I feel like demands a certain kind of person in your company. Like, I've never worked at Proline, but I feel like in order for somebody to get in the door and work at Proline and to have the opportunity to grow with that company, like you got to follow the system, right? So how is like hiring people is such a struggle for a lot of guys that are smaller companies trying to grow. How are you guys doing it? What works? What hasn't worked? And in the past, when you started out, Daniel, was it a struggle to find people?
Yeah, I mean, when I started out, it was obviously, I mean, it was me doing it. I had a neighbor that was actually a retired fireman that he agreed to help me on kind of a part-time basis because I didn't get into it thinking, oh, we're going full time. Like I need a crew of 5 people immediately, things like that. So there was a lot of days where it was just me and one other guy out there. There was sometimes where it was just me out there. I mean, I would come home from mowing grass all day, eat a quick bite of dinner with Kelsey, change uniforms and change trailers, and go paint parking lots in the evening. Like that's just like so. Sometimes it would be me there. But as far as hiring people, yeah, the first couple years it was really tough because there wasn't the need for like a full time position. And so finding someone who has a super flexible schedule, is willing to work nights, weekends, at that time, holidays, whatever, like whenever I could plug a job in, that was just super difficult. But as we've been able to really establish kind of who we are, what we stand for, how we do things, I'd say it's gotten, I don't want to say it's gotten easier to find people, but it's gotten easier to retain them, because we actually have now set out like, their first 90 days has, from an operations perspective, has a growth plan. So like your first like 30, 60, 90 days, we have it ironed out for you to know the things that you need to learn to ensure your success here. If you don't meet those requirements at those benchmarks at 30, 60, 90 days, well, we evaluate it. Is it something we can, remediate, or is it that you're not cut out for it? Or we're not cut out for you, like whatever it may be. It is what it is. But this year specifically has been our best year for attracting and retaining just good quality humans. A lot of them are kind of off of referrals, like they've gone to school together. We have a bunch of young individuals. One individual, Maurice, he's with us. He joined us early in the spring. He actually saw us on Instagram. He was sitting at home one day, saw our stuff, happened to show up on Instagram, was kind of wanting a new job, and figured he'd reach out and see what we were all about. Pretty much everybody else has come through the network of, kind of knowing somebody who worked here, or like two of the guys, like JJ, our operations manager, and we have another guy, Ray. Like I knew Ray through the gym that I go to. He referred JJ to me a couple years ago. So it's all been kind of that referral network. I think as our brand and as our presence online continues to grow, I believe we'll probably continue to attract individuals through that as we do more of like showing who we are, our culture, what we do for a job, things like that. But that's a big part of it for attracting and retaining people is like, I mean, we live in a day and age where like, the old saying like pics or it didn't happen. Like now it's like social media or you don't exist. So if you're not online and you're not present on there, like you don't really exist. So having that presence on there is really big in attracting and retaining individuals. I know I kind of just went off on a tangent there about the hiring and attracting people, but it's very difficult. It's a demanding job that we work in, and it requires a lot out of individuals. So it's a tough one to find and keep people.
So why are people staying at Proline? I think that's what a lot of people listening wanna know in their companies is like the gripes of how hard it is to find people is commonly said online. But I also feel like, well, once you have somebody, you have to do your job to retain them. So what's the I mean, you and I use the word culture a lot because we're both in top contractor school. We talk a lot about culture. You take it extremely seriously. I know that. So what is how do you build that culture to keep your people?
I think culture is definitely a very intertwined and tangled word. I think there's a lot of facets to it. I don't think it's a simple explanation of, oh, what's a good culture and how do you build it. Um, the to your point about people gripe about not being able to find people to work for them, right? So that's a hot button for Daniel. Whenever people say, "Well, nobody wants to work for me," well, yeah, nobody wants to work for anyone. They want to work with people. Like, let's face it. Like, some people may say, "Oh, well, you're just sugarcoating it. You work for a company or you work for this person." Well, yeah, you do, but nobody wants to actually be like told, "Hey, you work for me." That's a disrespectful way to do it right off the get go. Beyond that, when people say that, well, I just can't ever find anybody, this and that, blah, 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 can't find good people, whatever it may be, you have to ask yourself and you have to look really hard in the mirror and say, well, am I somebody worth working for or worth working with? Like, am I the type of leader that would attract the person that I'm trying to attract? And I've had some very heart to heart realizations with myself over the last couple of years that for a long time when I couldn't find or keep people to work with me, well, it's because I was just a dick. Like I was mean to everybody. I had like super high expectations. No grace was given. Like it was my way or the highway, and that was that. Now, I will say over the last 2 years or so, as I've been able to get out of the day to day operations and really start to develop into leading the organization, I still have a light years to go for being the type of leader I want to be, and I feel like I'm capable of being. But I will say I believe I'm a much better qualified leader than I was, you know, 3 years ago, 2 to 3, or hell, even last week. Like I'm constantly trying to grow. So that is a big part of it, is just making sure that if you're the business owner, the manager, whatever position you're in that oversees people, you have to be the type of person that those people are going to be attracted to that you want. If you're not, then they're going to leave. Like we had some guys last year, they did not fit our mold. They didn't really care too much about like the core value stuff. They didn't really care too much about, doing what we're supposed to do, standards, expectations, quality. It was just that I just want to show up, get my paycheck, and go home. Well, that ain't gonna work. Fortunately, all of them self-eliminated, their positions, but we will push that out sooner than later because you either are going to rise to the standards that we require or you're going to leave. Like we're not going to negotiate ours to yours.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I know tactically you guys do some really unique things too, pertaining to core values. Actually, even the one thing I just popped in my brain now is even the way you bring people in like the test day. I forget what you call it in the company, but like, what are some of those tactical things you guys are doing to make sure you get the right people and keep them?
Yep. So you just mentioned it. We do a work interview for pretty much all of our operational positions. That's something that we've made sure to do our absolute best to kind of cover our side of it from a liability standpoint. Because
Yeah.
obviously these individuals, they're not on our payroll when they come out to our job sites, but we have a full release of liability waiver that they sign before they do anything. We provide them with the proper PPE, so on and so forth. Tell them, hey, like wear clothes that you would wear to do yard work around your house. You don't mind if they get dirty, stained, whatever. And we typically pay everybody at this point, we pay them a flat $100 for the day because when you come out for that work interview, you are expected to work. I don't ever expect anyone to work for free. And if they're potentially maybe taking time off from another opportunity to earn money for their income or whatever it is, I feel like it's only fair to justify paying them for their time, right? So we do a work interview. That way, it gives them a chance to come out and see who we are, what we do. They show up, first thing in the morning with the guys in the crew. They work with them all day. They ride in the truck. They see the whole day through to see what it's like at a day at Proline. And we've had some guys who they do that and they say, "Hey, I don't think this is for me. I appreciate it. Cool, no problem." I look at that as we just spent $100 to save thousands of dollars, uh, you know, 3 months down the road by bringing a guy on that just decides to quit after 60 or 90 days, and we paid him for all that time. We put in the effort to train him and time and things like that. So that's a big thing that we do with the work interview. Gives them a chance to see about us a chance to see about them. We've had some guys who come out and our crew says, no, we don't want them. The guy never, offered to pick up a shovel, never offered to ask any questions. He just stood there and expected us to do everything. Okay, cool. Well, we probably don't want that on our team. So again, we spent $100 to save thousands of dollars later of wasted efforts. So
That's a huge one too, what you said about the crew, right? Like, yeah, because you, like, guys like you and I might interview someone and be like, this guy's awesome, let's put him in. And then one day with JJ and your guys, and they're like, why'd you hire this guy, dude? That's a great suggestion.
that's happened. There's been times where I've hired somebody, I've given them the go ahead, and I just tell the guys, hey, this guy's hired, he's starting on this date, whatever. And truthfully, now we've even gotten to a point. I don't actually, if somebody comes in and wants to apply for a crew position, an operations position, I don't actually even talk to them until they do their work interview and everything through JJ and the operations crew. Because truthfully, if he goes through them and they don't like him, I don't need to talk to him. Like if the guys are going to say no, like why am I wasting my time when I could be working on other things? that, I'm sitting here with some guy asking them some stupid questions for a 30-minute interview that are just super cliche, when really we need to know, how are you going to work with our team? And if you can't do that, none of these stupid questions matter anyways. So we did that this year. We flipped the process. And I said, all right, anybody who applies, Amanda gets all their information in the office, gets it over to JJ. He schedules an interview with them. Sometimes they'll do an actual interview first. Typically, it's just, hey, when do you want to come in for a work interview? And so that way it's just right off the bat. So he handles that. He's in charge of the schedule. And if it goes through him, then he comes, he debriefs it with myself, and we make a decision from there. What are we hiring him for? Part time, seasonal, full time, whatever it may be. Um, is there anything we need to be aware of? Things like that. And then if him and I are in alignment on that, then we go forward with a second interview with that candidate. And then typically, have a sit down with them. And as long as I'm comfortable with that conversation, offer him a job after that discussion. So, or if I'm not comfortable with it, I tell them we'll be in touch, and then JJ and I decide who's going to break the news to them. So that's how that goes.
People are some of the biggest joys, but also some of the biggest challenges. Like, so yeah, the work interview idea. Yeah, if someone's listening to this, please make sure you're covered liability wise. You can't just bring some randoms in and put them in work because if they get injured, you could be in some doo doo. So make sure you cover your bases. But yeah, I love that suggestion. Like, I don't know. Do you enjoy what you do now? Like people, building, leading. It's a lot of work, man. Do you enjoy it?
I would say yes. The long term vision is very enjoyable for me. Um, it's a change from being out in the field, like in the operations side of it, where out there, I mean, you get instant gratification. There's a problem you show up with, you do something to fix the problem is fixed, you get to see it, and you're happy. The people business is a whole different thing. I mean, it's a long-term investment. And I think it is extremely exciting when actually I think it's way more exciting when there's people that you're working with over an extended period of time and you start seeing things click with them. Like they're starting to grow or to think differently or develop in their own personal lives or professional lives, whatever it may be. I think there's more weight to that enjoyment. So like it carries more weight with me than just, oh, I showed up, I painted 200 lines, and now the parking lot looks nice. Well, that's cool, but truthfully, nobody gives a shit about your nice parking lot except for you and the person paying for it. Like that's it. I mean, let's face it, right? If you're in the business of building people, like the people who care about that are way more. You're helping impact potentially husbands or wives or mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, spouses, whatever it may be. Like you're helping build them to be better humans for like their life. And that's like to me, that's where a lot of that excitement comes from. So I think, I think the potential of impact is far greater in the people building business than capping yourself at the operational, like as a business owner. Like if you just say, oh well, I'm the best line striper, I'm the best carpenter or the best roofer or whatever, well that's fine, and if you're happy doing that, by all means, you know be my guest. But it just kind of depends what you want your outcome to be. Like what are you doing it for?
Well, speaking of, like, going from 45 G's to seven figures and still growing is no joke. How hard has it been? Really, how hard has it been
For what?
to grow it? To like people who are, in your case, you took over an existing company, but like you say, it was an unmarked trailer. It was small, right? So essentially, in my opinion, you started from ground zero. Like you said, you figured it out as you went along, and now, consider what you did day to day back then compared to now. It's radically different. How hard has that been to get this thing growing to where it is now?
See, that's a question that's hard for me to answer. Um,
Well, you
just
have to
like
answer
any
it. So
other, do what?
you have to answer it.
I'll answer it. It's just it's hard to give an honest answer because just like anybody else that we know, any other person who's building and growing their business or things like that, they're gonna be like, oh well, I just did what I needed to do. Like, yeah, it's been some long nights or some scary moments financially or things like that, like you're taking some risks or doing, missing out on family functions or holidays or things like that. Like, yeah, you have to sacrifice some stuff. But I think for the individual who sees the bigger picture, those things aren't actually hard. It's just part of it. Like, it's just part of what you signed up for, right? I mean, yeah, like when I was a fireman, I would miss holidays. Well, I signed up to be a fireman and I knew you had to work holidays. Like, the fire department can't just be on Thanksgiving break or on Christmas break. Like, they still have to be there to provide service. So as a business owner, you take that on, and especially once you develop a business to the size where other people depend on it. If you are an owner operator where more or less you own a job, if you don't show up, the work doesn't get done. Well, that's fine because that only impacts you. The second that you bring somebody on and they actually rely on your income, whether it's a part-time position or a full-time position, you are now responsible for making sure that business is strong enough to provide for them, for whatever they need. Now we've got, I think, including myself, we've got 14 people on our roster right now. A couple of those are part-time positions. Whether it's people in school or retired guys that are kind of working this as a part-time job in retirement, so on and so forth. But that's a lot of people to take care of. I can't imagine the guys or the companies that have 1,400 people, and that's something I don't take lightly when I'm making decisions and when I'm trying to strategize on like where we're going with things. Is okay, like one wrong move here isn't just going to affect me. It could potentially affect the lives of a lot of other people. So there's a lot more weight that gets carried with that. So I guess to answer your question about how hard has it been to grow it, to me, it hasn't been hard. It's just, I mean, it's been stressful. Um, because I get very analytical about things and want to make sure I'm making the best possible decision. But what I've learned to do to overcome that over the last year or so is when I start to get in that mindset is I ask myself, I'm like, okay, well, what is the worst case scenario of what happens with this decision? And if I'm okay with that worst case scenario, then I go for it. If I'm not okay with that worst case scenario, then that's when I get more analytical and kind of evaluate like, okay, well, what do I need to do to mitigate that that result, that outcome that I don't want, that I'm not okay with.
Yeah,
Does that
I
answer your
get
question?
you.
Like I said, that's a hard one for me to answer because I've been an entrepreneur mindset, business owner mindset, truthfully, since I was like, I don't know, freaking 10 years old. So it's just like a normal thing to me. Like if you want to earn money, if you want to make a living, you get up and go figure it out. Like you go find it. You don't just sit on your ass and fill out applications online and wait for somebody to call you. Like that's never been my mentality.
Yeah. So you probably don't have any regrets then in the way you've come. Is there anything looking back in Proline's 5-6 years here where you would do it differently? Like, what would you do?
I probably would have figured out how to make decisions faster and not take so long to decide on stuff. So I'm the type that I take a long time to decide whether or not I want to do it. Whether it's like getting into seal coating or looking at new business opportunities or hiring or whatever it may be. But then once I decide to do it, I want it done yesterday. Like it's like once I make that commitment and I'm jumping in, it's like I'm going like straight to the deep end, head first, like no second thoughts. We just do it. So I wish, I guess if I would have done something differently, I would have learned how to make decisions faster, which would have probably, expedited the growth of the company um, a lot quicker. So aside from that, it's I guess being willing to also get in the right networks of people. John Maxwell loves to say that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. For a long time, I was kind of doing stuff just on my own, and then over the last I don't know 4 years or so ish, 4ish years, maybe 5. I've been more open to like trying to do things together. So like whether it's with like you said with Top Contractor School or other networks that we're part of that we can get in the room with like-minded people to help just really fuel things.
Yeah. Well, what does I struggle with visualization sometimes. It's not really a strong suit of mine, but if you close your eyes and look ahead 10 years, what does it look like? Business wise, what does it look like? Big smile on your face. This ought to be good. Let me get comfy here. All right. 10 years. Proline, Daniel Wright.
10 years down the road, I think there's a lot of, I have to be careful what I say here. 10 years down the road, there's going to be a lot more opportunity for a lot more people. And I'm looking forward to being the spearhead of that opportunity for those people. So, something, I guess, kind of on a, not to go down this rabbit hole, but so with part of the reason with Kelsey, my wife, joining the company, um, that I'm super excited about, something that her and I've kind of talked about. I've told some other folks about it. But so for our personal life, at this point in our life, we are not like planning on having children or kids. Part of it's kind of a medical side of a thing, but the other side of it is like we've had a lot of conversations about like, are we happy with our life? Do we feel like we're missing anything? And we don't. Like we're not. We don't. Like we don't feel like we're missing out on the joys of kids. I love kids. We have family members have kids, and I love them to death. I do anything for them. I love your kids. I haven't even met them, right? But we don't feel like we're missing anything there. So I've always been somebody who's big about like, well, what's the purpose of my life? Like whenever I'm like on my deathbed and I'm going to be dead and gone. And truthfully, let's face it, after a generation or two, nobody's really going to remember me or talk about me anyways, or you or anyone else for that matter, unless your name is like Jesus or Santa Claus. So at that point, like I still want to make sure that when I'm looking back over my life, as selfish as it may be, that I can say I at least did something worthwhile that helped other people. Like I'm leaving something bigger than myself behind. So the way I look at it is, when you're talking about 10 years down the road, I think we're going to be creating some things coming down the pipe that are going to provide a lot of opportunity for a lot of people. And if I keep it small, if I keep it right here in Charlotte or things like that, yeah, can we really go deep and impact a lot of people here in Charlotte? Yes, we absolutely could, and we will. Like we will have that in mind, and we will keep pursuing that. But the things that we're looking at doing over the next 10 years will provide, like I said, a much wider opportunity network that the way I look at it is that people will be able to have the opportunity to build the life that they dream of. And I want to be the person who, like I said, is spearheading the foundation or the platform for that to happen. So I know that's kind of a vague answer, but it's going to be something that will provide what I believe will provide Kelsey and I a lot of meaning and purpose in what we're doing day to day. Because to be completely honest, I love going out on my boat. I love going camping. I love doing all the nice, great things that two married people with no kids get to do. But after a while, you need something else to talk about in the evenings, right? That's why I'm sure you and your wife talk about your kids and things like that, and what's going on in their school or daycare, blah, blah, blah. Well, we have four dogs, and that's fun to talk about, when they're like chasing their tail in the backyard. But like, we want to have, like, we like having discussions of like meaning, like, what are we building and doing? So the next 10 years is going to be filled with building opportunities for other individuals to be a part of. And then when we get to look back on that one day, it'll be something that we can be very proud of.
I'll make you a deal. You come back on here in 10 years and we'll see what's happening. How about that?
Yeah, we can. I'm sure we can talk offline about some of the specifics, so that way you can hold me accountable to them.
There we go. You don't strike me as the kind of person who needs a lot of external help being held accountable. You seem like you're pretty in the zone. So, man, anything? What did I not ask you? I mean, you and I talk so much off air. I don't know. I feel like anything I ask is going to be repeating something I already know. But what do you want people to know I haven't asked you?
What do I want people to know that you haven't asked me? That's an on the spot question. Um,
Why aren't you wearing a hat today?
I wanted to look good for your podcast.
It's slow. You're looking dapper.
Yeah. So I wanted to make sure that you could see my nice shiny forehead from my nice lights in my office here and all that good stuff. So no, man, I think I really I guess what people should know is that I really respect you and I's friendship. I think it's so cool to me that you're in a completely different part of the world. I mean, yes, you're still in North America. You're on like what are you, the western coast of Canada, and I'm on the eastern coast, southeastern coast of the United States. But yet, when we talk, we encounter a lot of the same problems, a lot of the same roadblocks, a lot of the same headaches and frustrations and goals and dreams and aspirations. And I think what more people need to know, and this isn't just about me, but just in general, is like there's other people going through the same shit you're going through, or there's other people that want the same things that you want. So if you find more of those people, truthfully, your life will become a lot easier. And in the case of business ownership specifically, that is where like you have to plug in with a friend group, a network group, whatever it may be, because I don't know if the statistic is true or not, but I've seen like one of those like inspirational posters that says 97% of people work for the 3% who never gave up. Like I said, I don't know if it's
Mhm.
only 3% of people who are entrepreneurs or business owners, but nonetheless, it's a very small ratio. If you go to a local bar on a Thursday night when it's Thirsty Thursday, the majority of the people in there are employees of a company griping about their business or their job or their boss or this or that. Very rarely are you finding super successful people hanging out where everyone else is. So find the groups that aren't the common ones. I'm not saying it's not a good time. I've enjoyed my Thirsty Thursdays. I enjoy going out, hanging out on my boat with a bunch of the people on the weekends. Like I enjoy that stuff too. But from an actual like progressive standpoint for your life, you have to find the people who are like-minded and or going where you want to go, and it'll help you get there a whole lot faster. And you might be able to bring somebody along with you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Man, thank you. Thank you for coming.
I appreciate you having me on, Cam.
Yeah, we should record our like one-on-one conversations. We can just make it like a recurring podcast thing.
Oh
Like,
boy. I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know if people would want to hear that. I
No,
tend
I
to
think they
ask you a lot of
do.
the same questions spread out over a couple months, and then you
No,
have to
it's just you and
remind
I
me like, oh, is
exactly what you
this
said,
like you
trying to
just asked me
fig
this?
just trying to figure out stuff and bouncing it off the other person's brain. You got the tactical analytical brain, I got the squirrel brain, and between the two of us, we can maybe solve a problem or two. So,
Maybe if
there
we're
you go.
lucky.
All right. I appreciate you for coming, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely, buddy. Thank you.